All right, folks, it's time for world politics. And of course, a lot of things are happening in the world, in the political landscape. And all along those lines, we know a lot of people are following what's going on with the money that was recently allocated for aid to Taiwan, aid to Ukraine, and even aid to Israel as well. So definitely there are billions of dollars that are getting ahead that way. And I think that they'll be getting a signature from the president as well. So a lot of people are paying attention to what's happening in that space. And of course, a lot of people are following this trial that is going on as well. So definitely that trial is continuing, and a lot of people are seeing how that is going also. So there's definitely a number of things that are happening in that political landscape. So there's always things happening in that way because a lot of people are following the hush money trial that is taking place there in New York City, and folks are seeing how that is going as well. So definitely that trial is on its fourth or fifth day, and definitely folks are trying to figure out what the impact will be on the election, or if there'll be an impact on the election, and how this will all come to fruition and all in that space. I was just talking to Kimberly, one of our co-owners of this particular network, and we were talking about how different countries handle even the view of looking at issues and all along those lines. Because I'm thinking the folks in Bali might not have even been paying attention that much to the trial and to the wars and even what's going on in India with some of the conflicts that are going on there between the Muslims and the Hindu, and even how in England they are sending people back to Rwanda and all in that space. So even internationally, there is a lot of conversation that is definitely politically driven and all in that kind of way. So we every Tuesday and Thursday we talk about world politics. As a matter of fact, the UK put its defense industry on war footing, and they gave some money, but it was less money than what the U.S. gave. So I'm wondering what people like Trump and Biden will say about that, because they gave Ukraine $620 million in their latest deal, and all in that space. So that is a 750 looks like a 775 billion pound or something like that defense boost. So definitely, I know that a lot of times the money translates different ways and all in that space. But in terms of U.S. dollars, it looks like it's about $620 $1 million. And definitely, there was even some folks that were trying to escape what the rule was in uh, the UK, and apparently there were some migrants that drowned in the English channels after the UK passed their Rwanda policy. So definitely, there's even some people that said that England is hope, and some say they will try again despite those channel deaths. Because definitely there were some people that even saying that they want to get to England, and some were saying that they saw some people struggling on the migrant boat before five died, and all in that space. And I was right about the aid. It looks like the Senate advanced the Ukraine aid and the Israel funding and all in that space. And there's also this notion that got passed about a TikTok ban. So definitely there's a lot of things that are taking place on in the political landscape and all in that space, including the fact that the UN rights chief is horrified by the reports of mass graves at two Gaza hospitals and all in that kind of way. So definitely that's something that's going on. And there's even the notion of what we can do with a very common item that we all have to deal with, but apparently we're not doing a good job of taking care of it, because doing the looks like during the plastic pollution treaty, the U.S. is facing calls to do more in terms of dealing with plastic. So definitely it looks like there are plastic treaty talks that are open, and countries are more divided than ever as to what to do with all of this plastic that we have in the world. So not just in this country, but around the world as well. And of course, we've got dictators that are making all kinds of threats. I think that Putin has said that we need to look out for an all-out nuclear war between the two nuclear powers. And in that case, I think he's talking about them and the United States. And Iran is threatening to annihilate Israel should it launch a major attack. So that is something else going on, because apparently the Iranian president is threatening Israel and all in that space. So definitely we've got a lot of folks that are here, and we'll get into some of these discussions. I'm seeing that I've got Nick with me and Rick Rosner, and of course we've got one of the founders as well. I'm gonna bring in Deidre McKee, who is a past guest, see what she's got to say about some of the things going on in her world, and of course we'll bring up Rick as well. So Deidre, how are you doing? I know you've been on a couple of the shows with us before, so if you just want to give a overview to folks that are listening as to some of the things that you're involved in and some of the things that you're doing, including that lovely book that you wrote and all in that space. And of course, we've got Rick back with us as well, and definitely we'll engage ourselves in some of this conversation. And then at some point, Nick might have to take over some of the leadership since I've got to do some other things as well. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back with you. Well, we're working on our little book that we got printed. It's at the printers as we speak, a little book called The Wonderful Bowl. And we have received a nice grant to place it in the hands of all the second and third graders in the public schools in a large county north of us and in our county and another county contiguous to us. So we're excited about that. We need to get it done before May is over. So the rest of May is going to be a super busy time. And so we're working and trying to promote reading and writing and comprehension and skills among our young people, especially our second and third graders, where it's such a critical time in their life, but also the older children who are having a lot of problem with reading and comprehension. And I'm trying to keep up on what's going on in Israel. Israel has my heart, and I'm not Jewish except by my Christian faith. And since my Savior was a Jew, I'm pretty Jewish in my thoughts. And I've really enjoyed learning about the seven feast.
Yeah.
And
One of the things I was curious about, just in that regards, because you mentioned children and all along those lines, and we've got Nick is with us as well, who's one of the other founders, and Kim may pop in also. But one of the things that I know that a lot of times people are fascinated by, and even Kim was talking about this, is that despite the language barrier, she became friends because she was visiting Bali and she's getting ready to do some other international travel as well. And she was talking about how, and she can tell you more about it, there was a youngster that she became friends with, and all along those lines. So, despite the fact of the language barriers, they were still able to communicate and share things together. She was saying that, well, off air, that there were things that she loved about Bali. There were things that she would like to see better about Bali as well, and everything. But definitely, how important do you think it is for us to deal with communications? Because one of the things that I feel that is a problem that we have in the country is that a lot of times people are too busy talking at each other and not actually dialoguing with each other. And that's why I think that a lot of these conflicts wind up raging on forever, and that they probably could be better handled. And I think that that's something that even the various religious books talk about, and all in that space. So it's not just the Bible, it's also the Quran and others that talk about the nature and of the importance of communications and how we can do better and be less divisive. So how important do you think that is, Deidre, and if other people want to jump in? And also, how can we make sure that we are teaching our kids respect?
Well, it has to start at home, and we have to show respect to one another, hopefully, in the home. We have a lot of work to do with that lately in the homes that we seem to see. And I know we've noticed when we're out in the public arena that it's very often that the children seem to tell the parents what they'll do. The children need parents. They don't need a best friend, they need a parent to guide them, to lead them, to help them navigate the world as they're coming into it. They also need to be communicated with, and they have to be taught by example. First of all, that's from their youngest times. That's where they're learning how to communicate. They learn respect with how mom and dad talk to each other, or the adults in the scenario, whether it's grandparents or mates or whatever. They learn by seeing other people. And if they were not communicating with each other and trying to understand each other and taking a little time, then they're not going to develop that. And how often do we see parents, the kids are saying, just recently I saw the child was saying, Daddy, 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 trying to get attention. Daddy was on the phone, and Daddy just ignored him, totally ignored him. This was like a 3-year-old. So if we're ignoring our children and giving preference to the telephone, then we're teaching them that they're not important. So it needs to start at an early age, but it's something we can address even as teenagers who have these problems. We can even reach them if we'll just find a way and we'll try to communicate and care.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Rick, you had some thoughts?
We're less respectful of each other as an entire country and probably the whole world due to social media that we, when in the 60s, when my parents were the age that I am now, people had most of their interaction with other people face to face. My dad was a small businessman. He spent the whole day downtown talking to people. Now, most of the talking that people do with each other is via our devices, and it's easy to be anonymous. And I'm anonymous largely on Twitter all day, and I'm very disrespectful to people, and they're disrespectful back to me, and it's a mess. And you go out in traffic, and people are crazy driving. I don't know if it was COVID or just the general, but yeah, we're in a situation, and I don't know how you fix. Oh, one more thing. We got 6 months until the election. And it's very clear that Donald Trump is not a nice guy. And I see so many messages on Twitter from his supporters who are now calling themselves like Twitter names like Mr. Dickhead. They are proud. There are a lot of people who are proud of being trolls. So, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely that is something that's going on, and definitely there's a lot of people that are paying attention to the trial and all along those lines. I was actually out earlier today, and we were actually doing a talk around the impact of the highway here in Durham, and they're doing a notion of kind of reimagining what that freeway will look like if they are redesigning it, because it is in an area. And it's one of those deserts that we sometimes talk about, because what used to be taking place, like a Boys and Girls Club, is now boarded up. It's now moved to another part of town many miles away. So they're trying to figure out how to engage this community that is kind of broken away from the rest of the mainstream. And I think that that's something that is taking place globally. I'm sure you even noticed that yourself, Kim, in your travels, that there were probably some parts that were, as you just said, the things that we see when we're looking at tourist places like Bali or Aruba that are plainly staged. I mean, I can even tell that as one that hasn't visited that when I am looking and all along those lines. But then there is sometimes suffering that goes on in those places as well. I just wanted your take, Kim, just in terms of what goes on, whether it's here in our Triangle area where I know me, you, and Nick live at, and of course, definitely Rick is in that whole area of California. And if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember whether Deidre's in Georgia or one of the other southern states, and all in that space. But we definitely are in different places. But we do know that this happens throughout, whether it's globally or whether it is on our local environment.
I think that's
if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember whether Deidre's in Georgia or one. That was you,
Hello?
Nick. Nick was
Nick. Okay, I think that there's just so much to absorb globally that we overlook a lot of things. And Rick couldn't have brought up anything better right now, that we have become a nation that is not considerate of other people, nor considerate of our own actions and what happens when we do things to other people. And it's becoming worse, and it's all created by our leaders. Our leaders have done it. I mean, look at the rudeness and the mouth that one of our supposed leaders will be. While I'm here in Bali, the big concern of not just people from Bali. I mean, I've met people from Russia, from Albania. I've met people from all over the world here in 20 days. I mean, literally all over the world. South Africa, this is a favorite hotspot for people from South Africa. And everyone is concerned about Trump becoming president. They do not want him to become the United States president. But their biggest concern is Biden going to last? So they look at me like, are you all idiots? And I'm like, yeah, I guess we've become that, because we're not being considerate of our own outcomes from our decisions. We're not thinking things through anymore. We're reacting to, other people's actions, and that needs to stop. And one of the things I found beautiful about Bali is how beautiful the people are here. They're just concerned about themselves. They don't judge other people unless, something horrible has happened. But, this traffic here is horrendous. It's, one lane roads, and people know how to share them going two directions. I don't know how they do it. Scares the mess out of me. I don't drive here, but I certainly ride a lot of places. But this country is based on kindness. It's based on faith and a religion that is just totally, two religions that are just totally impressive to me, that these people just give so much to each other when they have nothing at all. And they keep giving. They give to other people. Like, I'm walking down the street carrying some bags of groceries. It's the dead heat of the day. It was a big mistake on my part. Some young man pulls up on his moped and says, "Let me take you the rest of the way to your home." I mean, and I would have never done this in America. I swear to goodness, I would have never done this in America. And Brandon laughs about this to this day. We're riding around with our driver, who's truly a stranger to us, but he's taking us on a full, 8-hour tour through Bali to different hot spots. And we stop, and I just hand him my wallet and my purse and bags to hold for me so I can go swimming in a waterfall. And I never once thought he would steal from me. And I will promise you this, I would have never, ever have done that in the United States. I probably would have never done that in France or any other Colombia, any other country I've ever traveled in, would I have handed my stuff over so trustingly. And literally my wallet, I just handed it to him because I keep it clipped on me when I travel. So, I mean, I think we have a lot to learn in our country from a country like this. The other thing that amazes me is the medical care. The medical care is really good here, and they have it down to a science so that they don't spread sicknesses. So if somebody gets sick, rather than have them come into a facility in Groves, they send certified people, nurses, even some physicians will go to the homes and they will evaluate the person. They'll even take a kit of medication based on your symptoms, and they'll treat you there if they can. If they can't, then they send you to the facility, and they take care of the situations of spreading diseases by not making people come in or making you worse, right? You could get worse going to a facility. So, and it's affordable. You don't need insurance here. It's very, very affordable to get treated. Medication that we would have had to have purchased in the U.S. cost a fraction, and I mean pennies, compared to what we would have paid in the U.S. So I think the United States has a lot to learn from some of these other countries on how they're managing things, because the people are very happy here. They're not running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, or a circus with a bunch of circus clowns like Trump and Biden and all the Trumpettes going, hey, they're not doing that. They're worried about, eating, not worried about, but, they're worried about just taking care of each other. And I think it's beautiful. And so if I came to the country, it would be for the people, not because I like the place as much, but it would be for the people.
Speaking of people being worried and all along those lines, I do see your hand, Rick, and everything. But one of the things when I was doing this reimagining part of a little strip of land that deals with the highway here in Durham, and everything that was done earlier today that they were talking about, which I had not thought about, was that a lot of times when we talk about things that are global and global issues, and even things that our kids are dealing with, a lot of times they don't have enough to do. I just mentioned to you earlier that the Boys and Girls Club has been boarded up. And one of the things that a young lady pointed out to me is that a lot of, and whether you like them or not, but a lot of the public housing has now been pretty much destroyed, and it's pretty much no longer existent here in Durham. And I'm imagining that's the case in California, and that's the case in Arkansas as well. So originally when it was created, a lot of public housing, I want to say that was around the 60s and everything, it was intended to help people get a leg up because, as you say, Nick, housing should be a right, and that was a way to give people housing and all in that space. But it does seem like if we are eliminating public housing, then we are kind of going against that notion of housing being a right. So I just wanted your thought, because I'm thinking, I don't know how it is in California or even in Arkansas, but I'm thinking that a lot of places are having their public housing being demolished and all in that space.
Yeah. Rick, you had a comment?
I on a different topic. I'll circle back after you answer Mark on.
Oh, well, the thing is, I think before the Supreme Court, they're looking at housing, the lack of thereof to be cruel and unusual punishment, which is a very novel argument. So we'll see if the Supreme Court buys that. Now, here's the interesting thing about traveling internationally. Kim, who's over in Bali, she gets a place there, and she goes with the locals. In other words, hangs out with the locals. Here's the worst way to travel. People don't know it. Is take a cruise. Because if you think about it, here's what happens. You're an American, and as some of my foreign people told me, we know when the American walks in the door because they're the obnoxious loud group. Okay, so that's the reputation Americans have internationally. But you're an American, and you want to learn more about how foreign cultures work. So you take a cruise, and you sit on a boat with other Americans, and then you go do tourist things, and you come back. You've learned nothing. You've wasted your time. You've wasted your money. You wasted their money, and you should never go on a cruise. If you want to learn the culture, you want to learn how other countries work, then get your butt off the cruise, go into the countryside, and live with the locals for a while, and they'll know who you are because you'll be the loud, obnoxious American.
No, cruises are nice, but I like them because I'm lazy. I know I'm not going to learn jack squack about any other culture.
That's right, you won't.
Getting off the boat is the worst part of a cruise. You got 6 hours, and you go to tourist places, and
oh gosh,
it's just nice to be on a boat. But you're not gonna get any foreign culture. No.
But Rick, I know you had another point you wanted to bring up.
No, I do have another point, which is about housing. If we can get through the next 30 years, the 1/4 of the countries on Earth have a declining population. In 30 years, 3/4 of the countries on Earth will have a declining population because we're just not making as many babies as we used to. We're so immersed in technology that's what we're doing. And with a decline, with populations that are shrinking, we'll have more resources for everybody, and we'll have more tech. We'll be able to do 3D printing of entire houses. They show that on 60 Minutes. They have machines that just print a house layer by layer. They can put up a house out of this concrete-like stuff in a day. And so help is coming if we can just get through the next couple decades. I just want to say something about Biden. Here's Tom Selleck on the cover of People magazine. Selleck is 14 months younger than Biden. Harrison Ford is a year older than Biden. And these guys are still TV and movie stars. It's just that Biden has an old face. He lost his hair early. He did what I did, which is he did hair transplants. Surgeons moved hair from the back of his head to the front of his head, so he's got some hair hanging on, but he's got an old guy face. When his resting face off, somebody should tell him to close his mouth, because you look older when your mouth is like that. But that doesn't mean that nobody's home. It just means that he's got resting old guy face. But if you listen to him, it seems like he's still in command of the issues and the information.
And just really quickly, one of the other things I was curious about, and this is another one for definitely Nick, but if you want to jump in, Rick, and definitely Deidre, and even if Kim wants to come back in, address it as well. One of the things that I did not realize, but you'll love this one, because I mentioned the plastic and the plastic treaties that are out there and everything. But apparently, one of the climate change issues, Nick, you're going to love this, apparently has some sexist views as well, because when I was doing this talk earlier, or the walk earlier, because I wasn't leading it, other people were, there was a young lady there that was noticing that a lot of times around the nation and even around the world, when we plant trees, we are mostly planting male trees that are apparently give out a lot of pollen and are not good for the climate and the environment. So they were actually asking that we do more in terms of doing more types of plants, so that we don't just plant the male trees, but we also plant some trees that are definitely more garden-like and all in that space. So they were saying that what a lot of the tree advocates are doing, of those people that are doing city beautification, that they may actually be doing more harm than good. Because
why are we planting male trees? Do they grow faster? What's the deal?
I think that they give out they grow faster, and I understand that they also are seen to be pollen enhancers, ironically, and all in that.
Why do we want a ton of, I can't, the last couple days I've been blinded by all the pollen. They gets under my contact lenses, my eyes get all goopy. So I had no idea, but that's like, yeah. And we put up, I know we take down old growth forests, and then we put up trash trees. We put in fast growing pines to make toilet paper and studs for buildings. So yeah. But
the thing is, the real problem with climate change, it should be way down the list. And the Biden administration, the lunatic liberals are sticking it front and center, like it's important. It's going to be now. No, it's not. It's something that'll happen, 50 to 100 years from now. It'll be a problem, but right now it isn't. So what is a problem right now? Oh, well, Social Security and Medicare go broke this decade and next decade, respectfully. The U.S. government's $34 trillion in debt, respectfully, and growing at 1 trillion every 100 days. Those are immediate problems that should be addressed. And the liberal lunatics go, oh, we'll just keep printing money. Sure you will, liberal lunatics. You're going to pay for it. Well, how are we paying for it? Our taxes aren't going up. Republicans don't like taxes going up, and we like spending money. Go look at the grocery store and see how much you spend. It's called inflation. So you are paying for it. You are paying for it, and you will continue to pay for it.
Just
this
answer
is the reason why
question really
Donald
quickly.
Trump will be the next president of the United States, and the liberal lunatics will be out.
See,
Only
just to
because
ask
they're going to
Rick-
destroy the economy.
Hold on a second,
know?
just to answer Rick's question really quickly, because I just looked it up, because like I said, that's my time first hearing it earlier today as well. But apparently there is a notion among urban planners around the country and even around the world that there needs a better sexual mix of city trees to mitigate the rise in asthma and CO2 pollution levels. So apparently the male trees, which are mostly being planted, are creating a lot more of that kind of stuff that we don't like. And
It could
all
be.
of that space. So definitely they're saying that a lot of these trees are more not health conscious for us humans and all in that space. So, but apparently they have a preference for that in the urban markets, because they were talking about where you're not far from where you're at, of Sacramento, that they are doing that as well. So there's actually urging us to do more planting of female trees that can shed fruit as well as seeds and pods, and that pollen producing trees are those that a lot of people are seeing put up there, and it's added to people that have got hay fever and all in that space. So maybe we guys gotta have a better mix, like in real life, of male and females, just in general, like we try to do in society as well. So maybe it's
like trees like to spray their pollen all over the place, and 2 of our last 5 presidents were elected because guys like to spread their seed all over the place. George W. Bush wouldn't have gotten elected if it weren't for semen on Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. That the aftermath of that got Bush elected. And then if Anthony Weiner didn't have to do sex stuff with underage girls on his computer, and leading to the FBI reopening the investigation into Hillary's computer, which then we wouldn't have had Trump elected. So pollen and males shooting out stuff, it has been a problem.
Well, we've got somebody from Arkansas, and I know that she might even have some thoughts about Mr. Clinton, since definitely Deidre is there in Arkansas, and that is one of the claims to fame for both Hillary and for Bill. They are Arkansas kind of people. They were involved in Arkansas and definitely have been engaged in that area and all along those lines. So any thoughts about the notion of the Clintons and all in that space? And did you ever have any pleasure of meeting them? Because I know that sometimes they were engaged in the church community, which I know you're part of as well, and sometimes they weren't engaged. But just your talk and thoughts around Mr. Clinton, who is a Arkansas native.
I have a lot of thoughts about the Clintons. I was here, of course. I'm a lifelong Arkansan, so I was here during all of their tenure here. And I did meet him in person many, many years ago at the FFA, which is Future Farmers of America camp around Hot Springs. And he's very charismatic. He even pronounced my name. Detri doesn't necessarily look like Detra, but I had a name tag in front of me when I met him, and he pronounced it correctly, which has to impress you, that he could know that it's a long I with a Southern accent stuck on the end of it, you know. So I have more negative than positive. I don't see a lot of the things the way that they saw things. And I believe that one of the things that's about what we're doing here, which is communicating with each other over television, so to speak. I believe our vast array of television stations and our huge networks of news stations is greatly to be attributed to Clinton, because look at how many new news stations, 24-hour news stations, started popping up during the trials. And that's really when we just went berserk with thinking we had to have 24-hour news and we had to have an opinion on everything. And you've even given me some things to worry about. I didn't know we had a problem with too many male trees. So now I have
we also have a problem, and this is something that Clinton did that nobody else did except Richard Nixon before him. Here's the budget of the United States government. Now, most people have not read it. It's a 188-page document because you're not required to read it in high school, middle school, college, law school, MBA school, or frankly, nowhere. Yet it represents 25% of all spending in the United States of America. 25% of your life is sitting in this budget, which you can, by the way, read. It's freely available on the internet. Bill Clinton was the last one to balance this budget in 1993. Before that, it was Richard Nixon in 1972. The other presidents have not been able to figure out how to balance the budget, and they keep submitting budgets that are upside down. This current president will be upside down to the amount of 1.7, almost $2 trillion. Now, why? Because all they do is they tack money on to spending, more programs, new taxes, and it's like a drunken sailor. And so the thing is, if you read through this, you'll find it's worse than you think. We're going to go with Honorable David M. Walker about the $500 billion in fraud, waste, and abuse in this basically $7 trillion budget. But some of the waste, consider this. They're building charging stations all over the United States to basically pay off Elon Musk. They're paying not loans, they're handing money out to Silicon Valley to build computer chip. That's not a government function. And then to make matters worse, they're dumping billions and billions of dollars into climate change initiatives, just literally throwing money away. Oh, but my taxes aren't going to go up. It's only for the billionaires. Yes, your taxes are all going up.
Sure.
How's that? It's called inflation. Okay. Because we can't do that, we're going to tax you indirectly through massive inflation. So everybody's going to pay for this craziness that comes out. And you're going to see it. It's going to continue in the United States. It's just not going to go away. Yeah, Rick.
So you and I, we both agree. I mean, anybody reasonable agrees, that we have a budget problem. We disagree about giving money for tech. I think we can tech our way out of some of our problems. But one problem we're not going to, and you talk about Social Security and Medicare, which are mostly used by older people. And we have the same problem, though less so than Japan, is that we have under the baby boom, we used to have a bunch of people working and paying into these things to take care of older people. Now that we're making fewer babies, we have fewer young people to support the old people, and we're getting upside down like Japan is, where there aren't enough young people contributing to the economy to pay for the care of older people.
Yeah, but you also have no health policy here that's rational, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so here's the problem. So I'm going to go to Spain in October, and I'm going to try to get a permanent residence so I can hang out in Spain and go through Europe as long as I like. But you have to get health insurance, even though I'm on Medicare, which is great because everybody here pays for it except me. You know, everybody's listening. Unless you're on Medicare, you pay for this unbelievably expensive system. So, but I have to get health insurance in Spain. So I called them and said, how much is it going to cost us? You know, I'm 67. My wife is 75. What's it going to cost us? $150 a month each, $300 a month. I said, what does it cover? Covers everything. Okay. There are no deductibles, takes care of all your prescription drugs. They have good doctors over in Spain, $300 a month. I fell out of my chair because I'm going like, that is a rounding error here, literally, for what Medicare doesn't cover, because Medicare doesn't cover everything. Anybody on Medicare knows that. So I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. Their health systems abroad are efficient with an E. Ours are W with a big waste. And you know what the conversation will be on tonight? It'll be on Trump's trial. Who gives a rat's rear? Okay. What's really important to everybody is your health is out of control. And if you're age 60 to 65, you are so screwed. Obamacare doesn't work. I ran the numbers, and you know what it costs? It cost me $20,000 a year before I get a dime from my health insurance policy. I'm serious. Between the premiums and the deductibles, $20,000 a year. Anybody in that age bracket, 60 to 65, if you have to buy insurance, you don't have it covered from some other place.
That's so me, screwed. But I belong to the Writers Guild. They have excellent insurance.
I was going to say, okay, you see, if you don't get it from a third-party source like you do, Rick, if you said, I'm not part of the Writers Guild anymore, I'm gone, I'm not writing for Jimmy Kimmel, you are so screwed in this country from age 60 to 65. I ran the numbers every time. I'm grateful I'm on Medicare, but I can't keep thinking about all the people that turn age 60 to 65, run the numbers. By the time you pay your premiums and the deductible, you have to spend at least $20,000 a year before you get a dime out of your health insurance. You know, that discussion takes place every night on major media, right? No, it never takes place.
No, it takes place.
Why?
My wife comes home and tells me about.
I'll tell you why. The next commercial is a bloody pharmaceutical commercial.
Yeah, my wife's 59, but most of her friends are a little older, and she comes home and she tells me
more drugs. Major media.
My wife tells me about how screwed all her friends are because they're all in their 60s. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. But I want to go back to something else. Deetra was talking earlier about being Christian, but having Jews and Israel in her heart. I'm in the reverse situation where, okay, in the news, Nancy Pelosi just said, not Netanyahu's got to go. You know, I wish Biden would toughen up on Netanyahu. I know they're putting pressure on him all the time, but Netanyahu doesn't give a crap. It makes me feel sad. I think about Israel a lot. And, you know, I think about, given how mean we are to each other, I think about Jesus a lot. Even though I'm Jewish, I've got a bigger Jesus in my office.
Whoa!
I bought this mosaic Jesus. He was missing a bunch of pieces, and I'm putting it back together. But yeah, we need a little bit more, I don't know, Judeo-Christianness in our lives, just on a person-to-person basis.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. If I could interrupt a little bit there. One of the things that I've been studying a lot lately, that as a long-term Christian, we're telling ages now. I'm 75, so I've been a Christian since I was 8 years old, and reassessed through the years. Do I really believe this, or was I just told this? And I do believe it. But I'm discovering the Jewishness of Christ. And I know, Rick, we're going to see that differently, and I respect your views. Don't think I don't. But it has caused me to really look into who he is and what he celebrated and the feast and things of the Jews. So I think internationally, we need more of one of the things that he possessed that I wish we had more of is to love people. It's okay to hate things that are wrong, but we shouldn't hate people. And I know sometimes when I stand up for Israel vocally, I do get accosted and said, well, what about the Gazan people? What about the people in Gaza? What about the Philistines? I'm sorry, the Palestinians. And we get caught up on that. But to me, it's like I really support children in trying to help teach them to read and to write and to communicate better. Well, are you going to lambaste me because I don't also push math? That's important. Science is important. Health is important. So, but I think it's okay for us to take a strong stance on certain issues without feeling like we have to take a strong stance on every other issue in the whole wide world. One of the most freeing things that happened to me was when I realized I don't have to have an opinion about everything. Sometimes I can just know things, and I can know this side, that side, and this side, because there's your view, my view, and the truth. And maybe 3 or 4 other things.
So somewhere in between that.
Yeah, something, to go with that. And it's so freeing to find our calling and where we need to be, what we need to be focused on and supporting and helping and learning more about at the same time, but not thinking that just like being on this, I don't have an opinion on male trees. Sorry.
I know very little about that issue. I do understand housing in America because this is a real problem. When I go to Italy, I go to Switzerland, I go to Greece, and I don't go to Spain. I go to Morocco. Can't find any homeless people. Then you go to Southern California. They're there. Go to New York City. Mm-hmm. There they are. I mean, America is really embarrassing. And when our foreign friends come over here, if you want to waste your government funds, waste on building these houses, please. All right. They don't have to be elaborate, 150, 200 square foot house, but a bloody house at least.
So how about let's secure our borders? How about let's start there so we can take care of ourselves?
The thing is, I already have a plan for securing the border, and it's really, really simple, Deidre. Okay. When I'm going overseas, I get charged money to go over there. Okay. And you buy these visas, or you go on a golden visa or a nomad visa. You come to the United States. Oh, it's free. Come on in. No, it's not free. You charge everybody $10,000 to become a U.S. citizen. Okay. And that'll pay for the background checks. It'll pay for, well, I don't have the 10,000, send them back. We don't need them because we have plenty of poor people. But I don't have the 10,000, but I'm willing to borrow. Fine. As long as you pay your 10 grand, that'll be your entry ticket to the United States of America. If you don't have the 10 grand, we don't want you here. And you have all these illegals. Have them pay the 10 grand too. Remember, America needs money. We are broke. People, I wish media would get up in there and say, look, and Congress would be honest with people. We are not just broke. We are super broke. We are 34 trillion in the hole, growing at 1 trillion with an income of around 7 trillion a year, a little less because we borrowed to make that income. Can you imagine a household that has 340,000 in credit card debt and they have an income of $70,000 a year? That's not good. That's the United States of America. It's that bad. And the biggest budget item this year is interest on the debt. So we're broke. We need to make money any way we can. One way, charge the people that are coming through the borders, charge the people that are here that want status, and do like they do overseas. You can apply for the nomad visa, the golden visa, the other visa, but guess what? You don't go in free. There is no free lunch. And then we can take care of the border. I'd more than welcome them because they're paying money as they walk in the door. But no, they're not coming in here free.
Well, I would welcome no free lunch, but I would want them vetted also, because you would also.
Oh no, they'll get vetted. That's part of the $10,000
only the Chinese.
When I'm going to Spain, they do a background check. Okay, I have to go. It takes time. I have to do this background check just to apply for a visa. So there's a background check on me. I got to pay fees, et cetera, to get in. And they have something unique that they don't have there. When I buy a piece of real estate, they have a 10% upfront tax that goes to the federal government of Spain. Okay. The United States' policies are horrible because the way we treat immigrants. We should give them an opportunity to come here as long as they pay, they get to play. If they don't pay, send them back. Put them on the next bus, not to New York, but send them on the next bus to Mexico or wherever the heck they come from. I could care less. Yeah, Rick.
I'd argue that our border issue isn't as bad as it is for countries like Spain, which we have 5.5 times the population of Spain. We can absorb more people. And Spain, if you can make it across the Mediterranean to the coast of Spain, you're in. So you've got all of Africa and, all the failed states in Northern Africa, spitting people, if they can make it across that sea, they are in. And so they have a higher percentage of immigrants and refugees than we do. So
yeah, but they pay to get in. As a matter of fact, the Golden Visa program was so popular in 2 countries, in Italy and Portugal, they stopped it. Now, what was the Golden Visa? Got to spend $500,000 at least on a house or a business in their country. Not borrow it, but basically spend it there. Okay. So the European Union isn't stupid like the United States when it comes to, and you got to get rid of that Statue of Liberty. Just send it back. Who gave it to us? France. All right. And it has the worst saying in the world. Bring me you're poor, you're hopeless, you're tired, you're disgusting. No, we don't want that. That's not our policy. It's never been our policy. So take that sign down, burn it, and take the Statue of Liberty and auction it off, and hopefully somebody like France will buy it and get rid of that stupid thing. It has no business being here.
No. We are able to. The U.S. is a beacon, and by being a beacon, we are 4%.
Beacon of what?
Hold on, we're 4% of the world's population. We attract the most talented of the other 96% of the world.
Where are you dreaming, buddy? You are, that's America as it used to be. That ain't America today, buddy. The top people in the world aren't coming here. They're leaving here. Actually, a lot of top people in the world are in China and India, and they're not coming here.
So
anymore.
This is off limits. Into a bunch of xenophobic
violent,
like the border debate. The border debate scares away quality people from the rest of the world. Our xenophobia, and that lets China.
There is no debate. You charge them to come in. Okay?
Yeah,
a lot of them are Chinese and they're just walking through the border. No. They pay to play, baby.
Hold on. If your corporation recruits talented people from the rest of the world, you know this because your corporation has done this. You pay
HB1 visas
to bring those people over. So we're already doing that to some extent.
Yeah, but I paid for HB1 visas. Okay, that's when you do bring the talented people in. I had several people that were on HB1 visas in my company, and I paid for that. There's a pay-to-play deal, and the United States needs to get back to it because, first of all, we're broke. See, that should be the first thing in the announcement by CBS News. Instead, they're going to talk about Trump. They're going to talk about how there's these riots going on. First thing they should say, well, everybody, guess what? We're broke. No, we're beyond broke. We're 34 trillion in the hole, and we don't make near that type of money. We're way over 100% debt to GDP. Now let's talk about what's going on in the United States. That should be the start of every conversation, including something that Margie Taylor Greene is actually right on. The country is broke. The country is broke. Now, Jatovi's different. He goes, oh, we'll just keep the printing presses going. No problem, Jatovi. You're going to be paying for it. You're paying for it today. It's called inflation. Inflation will continue as you and the Joe Biden liberal lunatics keep printing that money, baby. They did that in Venezuela. They did it in Argentina, and they just don't understand where that inflation came from.
Everything you have said is a talking point.
Oh, no. Well, you follow the liberal lunatic line, Jatovi. It's okay. The thing is, print money, and then you go to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store. Oh, did the prices go down? No, they went up.
Counsel, let me help you a little bit.
I do need help.
Yeah, inflation is a global problem, correct?
A global problem?
It's just yes or no.
No, it's not correct. I'll give you an idea. In Spain, you know what the interest rates are in Spain to borrow money for a house? How about 2.5%?
You didn't answer my question.
No, it's not a global problem. It's predominantly U.S.
Every economist says it is. You're not an economist. Every economist points that out. Number two, you stated that nobody pays anything to come to the U.S., correct?
No, I didn't say nobody. I said we do not have a good immigration policy in the United States.
We can agree there that the immigration policies need to update. But to state
Pay to
that,
play.
oh, well, people come to the U.S. and are coming for free is incorrect. Yes. People do pay. Lots of people pay. You even
the
pointed
illegal
out
immigrants paid. Show me where we got paid on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, but who are they paying?
Hold on, wait.
Who are they
They're
paying?
not. They're not.
Both of you guys are jumping in, and I can't even answer the question that you just stated. Right now, they're adding 7 trillion, adding 7 trillion to our budget. So they're bringing 7 trillion to us. So to say that they aren't adding anything or doing anything, that is doing nothing to the conversation. And it is leading into what Rick talked about being xenophobic. That is a problem that we have. Illegal immigrants have no true pathway of staying in the U.S. or coming to the U.S. currently due to the fact of our policies, which we agree on should be fixed.
So where did you get that figure, Jacoby? Where did you get that trillion figure of what they're adding?
The CBO.
He's making it up as it goes along because
it's the CBO number.
No, I agree with Toby that you can most undocumented immigrants pay payroll taxes that go into the
it's the CBO
payroll taxes
well documented and well.
That's true.
It's those numbers are well documented.
Going back out to them,
well researched.
Not true. But okay, but the thing is, what could happen, and then we would welcome the immigrants here, is have them pay to come in, and I'm sure a lot of them would gladly
just to jump on your whole thing there. Just to jump on your whole thing there, which ironically goes against, is antithetical to the idea of we need more Christ in the whole thing, because Christ did not charge people to join his flock. So it's kind of ironic that we're asking for more Christ in the country, but yet acting like the Pharaoh and actually telling people they have to pay. Just to put that aside. On top of that, the idea that you're talking about of, hey, we need to have them pay $10,000 or get some type of loan. That is the same thing that put us in the situation with our education problem. The student loan debt is one of the biggest things in our, according to the our debt problem currently. That is a fact. So if we're asking people to pay and get $10,000 loans to do this, well, who's going to cover those? The same people that are covering the student loan debt, which we are not going to be able to handle in the first place, and that are being forgiven now. So we're increasing the debt based off of that ideology. That's the same thing. It's the same mythic idea that, oh, well, right now, inflation is a problem and we want to fight China. So what we're going to do is throw in extra tariffs on China. You know, one problem that causes inflation? Tariffs. So the idea
is terrible in most cases.
The idea, I had a discussion with somebody today about fandom and reality. That's what we're sitting at. We're talking about fandom right now because we're in politics and the political season, because we're talking all these glorious things, but we're not thinking about the actual realities of the situation.
Yeah, so we used to have a pretty sweet, sorry, you're up.
I want to talk just a little bit about these educational loans and things. To me, one of the biggest problems we have with our educational loan system is that we're allowing students to go out there and borrow for future payback way more than they need to actually go to school. We're allowing them to buy enough to stay in really great condos, buy a good car, drive it anytime they want to, plenty of gas money, plenty of money to spend that they don't need to spend. And we're encouraging them to max out on those loans. And then we're fussing because they can't pay them back. Well, many of them can't pay them back because they're spending $7 for a buck of $7.
No, that's wrong.
Yes. Now, wait a minute. Let me finish, please. They are also spending money on tickets to go to concerts, They're spending, yes, sir. I know them. I'm in that generation. I've got the grandkids.
Finish what you're saying, because I want to let you know something.
You can respond. Just give me one more
Yeah.
minute. They are also spending it for money they don't need because they don't understand that they need to pay that back.
It's a
It's a 3-word. If we could get our arc of living correct, it's a 3 words we need to be teaching our kids. That's accountability, responsibility, and the consequences. You make your choices, you sure do, but you cannot choose the consequences. They need to understand that all our even our older people need to understand our choices have consequences, but we're not taught to think them through, to take whatever we're dealing with and carry it through to its logical conclusion so we can come up with a better plan.
You're not allowed to rent a car till you're 25, but we let 18-year-olds rack up huge debt, which really isn't fair to the 18-year-olds because they don't know what they're getting into.
But they should still be responsible.
Hold on, check this. This is where the problem comes into play. Again, the mythos and the fandom and the reality of the situation. Nick, when you talk about the national debt or the debt, and you keep bringing up the deficit and so on and so forth, the big reason you talk about it, one of the things that you're talking about in there that you're complaining about is what? The interest on the loans. One thing that you never mentioned in your whole conversation is you talked about Dietrich, you said, well, students are spending money on concert tickets and all this other stuff. Do you realize that a student who gets a $60,000 loan is now indebted for $300,000?
But they don't know they have to pay it back.
That's true.
No,
they don't have to pay it back because Joe Biden's going to
pay it back. That's what they're locked in. No, listen, you guys are arguing and not listening to the actual reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that interest on that loan is what is sinking people. And what you're complaining about is saying, well, they're not paying back the student loan. Well, they borrowed $60,000.
They should never borrow.
And now they're actually having to pay $300,000 back. And you're complaining that they're not paying $300,000 back when it's steadily growing, when they cannot even pay the loan now.
My dad trying to keep his business afloat kept getting more and more small business loans, so that by the time he died, he had like 5 loans going at like 12% interest. And my sister, who's a lawyer, finally went back to the banks and said, look, just take his building and then just excuse the rest of the debt. You guys made so much interest off of him in the past 10 years that just suck it up. You've made a ton of money off of him already. And the bank's like, all right, yeah, we see your point. And they did. They took the deal. And so a lot of these student people who are in their 40s and have been paying into it have already paid off the principal many times over, but not made a dent in the principal because it's all going to interest.
Exactly. And that's where the problem lies. But not anyone who's against the student loan forgiveness has mentioned that.
Yes, we have. Now, you're mistaken.
Dietrich, let me call you on exactly what you said. You said kids aren't able to pay these back because kids are spending money on concerts. Kids are spending money on expensive food. You said absolutely nothing about the interest. That's the real problem. You talked about Dietrich.
You can't mention every possibility.
Wait. We can go to the video evidence. And this is exactly what I just said and exactly what you just agreed with, even with Rick. But now you're trying to change your story.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything like that.
I didn't have time to.
Yes,
I didn't have time to say that.
Dietrich,
that's a part of the problem.
Dietrich, you did.
Yes, Jatova. You didn't give me a chance to get on to that part.
We're going back and forth over nothing. You didn't say it. Just admit it.
I didn't have a chance
Let me just throw in one more thing. We looked it up yesterday. A year going to USC, $95,000 times 4 years is $380,000 to go to USC. So yeah, maybe that kid does get a bunch of $7 frickin' Starbucks in those 4 years. It doesn't. $7 for $380,000 is cray.
No, we went over that. My wife went to USC, but here's the deal. I went to the University of Miami, 2 of the most expensive schools in the country that we went to, but we could afford it. Hello. okay? Because we had trust. Hello. So I have no student debt. Hello, hello. Okay. But I can tell you, other people, they can't afford it. They shouldn't go. And frankly, it isn't worth it for them to go because you're not going to learn anything different there than you would a state school. Or even better, you can go to school internationally. I went to Oxford because back then Oxford University was cheaper than the University of Miami. Like
here's an
ETF, one of the best schools in the world, a top 10 school in the world, ETF in Zurich, is cheaper than any school in the United States.
Here are
bother
two,
to go to school here.
Here
the
are
reason
two
you have
easy
student
solutions.
debt is you have idiot school counselors all
No.
over the country that don't
You
know
have-
jack about
You
sending
have
kids to the right
we
school.
have made capitalism so entrenched within our society that we've made everything for sale. Every single thing in our lives.
Education is for sale, but most people should not go to the U.
But the thing
Because
is,
unless you're rich, you don't go to the University of Miami.
a super easy solution, you can fix the whole interest rates and restructure that whole interest problem.
No, you got to start from the beginning, not the end.
I'm getting there.
Keep
I'm getting
kids
there.
away from going to Duke. My
No,
kid went to Duke.
that's
But
wrong.
if you can afford it,
What
you go
you
to
have-
Duke. But if you can't,
What you
don't
have
go
to
to Duke.
do, you restructure in the collegiate level the whole interest rates as well as the price point to go to these schools.
They
Then
don't get
also-
loans. You shouldn't borrow money to go to school. That's
Again,
ridiculous.
those interest rates are what's killing kids more so than anything.
What's killing them is their dream is garbage.
No,
and I used to work with these kids. Oh, I
what's
want to go to
killing
Carnegie
higher
Mellon. Don't go,
education-
Eric. I got to
What's
go to Carnegie Mellon.
killing higher education? We just established the fact that you're paying you get a loan for $60,000.
No, you don't get a loan.
Actually having
if you got to get a loan to go to
$300,000.
school, you don't go to that school.
Kids are going to, not everybody's
Go to
going to get a
state
scholarship.
schools. State schools are bargains.
I
But if you gotta
agree,
get a loan to go to
but you
school,
don't have resources and seats available, because you know what do we always cut? What's the first thing the Republican Party cuts? Education. So now
because a lot of our education is
It's
trash.
true.
I can't blame for cutting.
Once you
It's your
cut
truth,
things-
but it's not true.
No, it's a
Okay.
fact. You look at all the history.
Well, they should cut it because a lot of the education is trash. Education anyway, don't nobody back. And you should also consider getting trades. I met with one of my first clients who's a plumber.
Yes.
He's a plumber. He's making $350,000 a year.
Trades are
You know why
important.
plumbers are making $350,000
Community
a year?
colleges are
Because
important.
you don't need to go to college. He didn't have student debt, so now he's making $350,000.
Right, we're almost out of time, but I want to go back to immigration for a second. We used to have a sweet deal for immigrants, which is you join the military, you give the military
It's true.
2 years, and you're fast tracked to citizenship. I don't know where that stands now. It got weird
It's
under
still
Trump.
there. So you literally have in high schools and even in in middle schools and so on and so forth, you have ROTC programs. You have other things that are there. You have other things that are being tried and attempted. What I'm trying to state is the fact that you've got to restructure the interest rate problem. You've got to restructure the budgetary, the actual price of colleges. You've got to make community colleges, just the free community college is one of the greatest things. Create trade programs. In terms of lower areas, you got to start early childhood education. That shows an actual increase in the kids these days. So you've got early childhood education. You've got to increase the technical things within schools, the computers and everything else. You've got to add those programs in there. Financial literacy later in the programs. You can have yes, it's a money-making thing for Walmart or the bank that's in Walmart. But the thing is, what they've done in some schools is actually create a bank run by students within the school, and they teach financial literacy through there. Great idea, and it's a great program that should be done.
We don't need Obama anymore because we have Jacoby. We have Jacoby, baby. No more Obama. We have Jacoby. But we don't need. But we do need to go because we're past the hour. So we want to thank our guests and our viewers, not just in the United States, from around the world, listening to World Politics. And we'll see you again on Thursday. All right. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Jen.